What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I see dead people. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie.
And Nikisha.
Where we share our love for all things spooky and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome. Everyone. Sirens, but not too loud because, Gordy's home. So don't look up, just listen because we are talking about the 2022 new release movie, Nope.
There's something out here. Yeah, nah.
No.
Nope.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Nah. No. Nope. Hell no.
Yay! We've been waiting for this day for so long. And I'm so excited to hear everybody's thoughts about this movie because it is a lot. We're going to keep it brief, but we're going to talk about all of the things. So, Nope, of course, is written, directed, and co-produced by Jordan Peele under his Monkey Paw Productions. It stars Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Stephen Yeun, Brandon Perea, Michael Wincott, Ren Schmidt, and Keith David. Now, obviously, there's going to be heavy spoilers. We are talking everything Nope. So if you have not gone to the theater and watched it, or might I suggest maybe listening to us getting an interpretation of it before you watch it and then go watch it, it might help you to enjoy it a little bit better. But that's just me. Jamie, are there any trigger warnings for this?
There are some spooky images. There is some unsettling images of animals being harmed and harming people. So
Yes.
a little bit of everything. There is a lot of blood and gross blood-related things.
Yes.
It's kind of unusual way to describe that, but if you saw this movie, then you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And just like lots of unsettling deaths, people being consumed.
Yes.
Also
Literally
unsettling.
consumed. Very unsettling.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love the blood-related thing. So if you just don't like blood, let's just not. And before we get
Just say
into
nope.
all of the... Oh, yes. Just say nope. Hashtag just say nope. That's what that is. Before we get into all of the things, producer Brian has some words for the group. Brian, would you like to address our listeners?
Yes. Hey, everybody, just some housekeeping. Don't forget to subscribe to us if you are listening for the first time or for you many times you haven't. You can follow us on social media. We have episodes every week, so I want to make sure that you're caught up. There's a lot of stuff coming out this year. There's a ton of stuff coming out. We intend to cover a large majority of it. So obviously subscribe, follow us at Talk Horror Pod on Twitter, on Instagram, and on TikTok. TikTok is where you can find us talking about trailers that have just come out. Like we talked about we reacted to the Halloween Ends trailer. We watched the Munsters trailer, like all that kind of stuff. We also do some other fun things on there. So check us out on there. And this is the last episode of season 3 for Talking Horror. This is our season finale. I forgot to mention that before we started, but this is our season finale. We're ending with Nope, and then you won't have to really wait any time at all. We're just going to start with season 4 immediately. But it just helps me in my organization, and it helps you in your Apple Podcast feed. So we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. So follow us all there. And then go back to our old episodes. We do things like Psycho. We do all the Conjuring movies. We do Midnight Mass. That was really popular. People enjoyed that one. A lot of people found us that way. So definitely check that out And then last thing, and I know we'll say it at the end, but reviewing us really helps. People find us that way. There are a lot of really good horror podcasts out there, and we want to make sure that people are finding us as well. So cool. Review us, rate, and review us there. But I just want to do a little housekeeping up front. And now let's get into that Jordan Peele film, Nope.
Yes. That Jordan Peele film. I mean, what a season finale to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Holy.
because it's our season finale, well, not because, but I guess because we have a special guest with us. And I believe this is the first time we have had this guest on the podcast with us. So we're just rocking them up. But everybody, please give a round of applause. But if you're driving, keep your hands on the wheel for Aaron J Albano. Yay!
Welcome.
I'm here. How's it going, everybody?
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited to talk about this movie. I'm very excited to I'm not a huge horror film person.
Actually, yes. But when let's get into that, because I would love to just point out, and we do ask our guests this as well, what their relationship to horror is. So, Aaron, continue on in your journey with horror.
Oh, I hate it, but I definitely have gotten into it more because of Nikisha. She's the one who forced me to give the genre another shot.
Yay.
And literally when this movie, because I think we watched Us when we were out on tour together. I had watched Get Out, but then we wanted to watch it again. And so you're sort of my gateway into giving horror another try. Was that? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I watched that movie with another one. And so when Nope was announced, I was the one which shocked me. I was the one who called Nikisha and was like, so are we watching this together? Because this is the only way I'm going to watch this if I watch it with you. So let me know when we're going. And so then I was like, all right, I still hate it, but I give it a chance now instead of completely saying nope. I will lowercase nope.
Is there a specific horror that you just like? You will always say nope to something, like a specific subgenre of horror that you're just like, I cannot do this. Nope, no, thank you.
You know what really gets me the worst are the jump scares. Jump scares really I don't want it. I don't want it at all. It can be, and with gore a close second, but it's the jump scares first. And when there's a jump scare plus a gore, I'm like, nope, get me away.
Absolutely.
Give me a Disney princess movie instead. Forget it. I gotta get out of here.
But you recently also watched, and this is with another colleague of ours, you watched Fresh.
I did watch Fresh.
I did watch Fresh.
That was a lot.
Yes.
Well, I'm starting to realize with the gateway of talking horror with Jamie and Nikisha, and I can.
Thank you for using the full name.
While I still hate it, I've now realized that I can stomach it. I remember, I think it was early in pandemic. I think we watched, what was that movie that we watched over? It was when Netflix Watch Party started, and it was that film with the table. The table.
The platform.
The platform?
Is that what it was called? That one. And I wanted to die, but it talk about the 4 S's, the shakes, that lasted me for 2 weeks because I was
really?
Yeah, I mean and it's one of those things I'm while listening to you all and then and giving them another shot. The ones that really stick with me are the ones that have some commentary to it or have some deeper meaning to it, which is not all of them. 100% not all horror is like that. But when it's a quality horror film, I can stomach the horror to get to the deeper levels of it.
Sure.
And that's why I really love the Jordan Peele movies, because despite hating the experience, I then get obsessed with it afterward because I get to really dig deep and really process it and become a, I don't know, better human at the end of it. I don't know. But I can sort of put up with the death of the horror that I want to dive through but like, because it's worth it to get out on the other side and really dive deep into the meanings and the point of the movies. And that's what I love about this genre that I hated initially, which I still lowercase hate, but I can do it now.
Just not uppercase.
I love that. Yeah, just no uppercase. But
it's like a lowercase nope instead of a capital with like 4 O's.
Got it.
Nope. Yeah.
But I think horror in general is a genre that lends itself to kind of those type of themes and those like parallels. And we talked about it on the podcast before, but just the idea that if you are making a movie about something, it's indirectly related and it's analogy for it. It's a commentary on it versus like a drama, which is like kind of dealing directly with whatever that issue is. This one, especially the Jordan Peele movies, are doing something kind of wild, and then but you're seeing the themes and the crazy things, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like Invasion of the Body Snatchers is about the Cold War, but like no, it's not. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. What's the one we did? The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it's saying a lot about a certain time period. Like all those movies, at least the new one we saw and the old one, like they're saying something about like generation differences and like hippies versus non, or like yuppies and millennials versus non. And like, but it's not an actual movie about like, I'm a hippie and I hate you guys. You know, it's not like that.
Right.
Anyway, sorry.
Well, I think
these sound like.
I think
no, that's what the bumpkins sound like.
Right. Yes.
Well, I think like the first few that I watched in my young impressionable life were like Species and like House on Haunted Hill and like stuff that were horror for horror's sake.
Sure.
And when you return to it, you're like, okay, this wasn't as scary, and there's nothing to cling to beyond the initial watch. And that's where I'm like, if I didn't even like the initial watch, and then there's nothing for me to hang on to afterward, then I hate the genre. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
But then when I discover good stuff, then it's different.
Right. Yes. And you just appreciate elevated horror and not just gore porn, which, I mean, there's so many subgenres.
That's totally fair.
Of horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that makes sense. You know, there are people who like all of it. There are people who only attach themselves to one or the other. And there are people who like all of the silliness of horror movies when you get down into the third, fourth, fifth of a Texas Chainsaw, of a Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street, or of a Halloween, and it gets kooky, you know, like our other friend of the show, I'm going to steal that, Brian, our other friend of the show, Matt, who loves that kind of, let's just make it kooky and everything doesn't make sense and it's just horror for horror's sake, you know, there's a place for that. So we just know, now we know that you are on the elevated horror track, so now we can give you more movies to watch that will appease your mind.
This is your own fault.
Look what you've done.
Honestly.
It's also crazy because like I did not watch. We talked about this on the podcast. I did not watch slashers growing up at all. Only recently, having moved in with Jamie and like her sharing her love of the slasher movies with me during the pandemic, did we watch like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. I just hadn't seen any of these movies. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all that. And on TikTok, people are like, I can't believe you've never seen it. What do you mean you just saw this movie? And it's like, I just grew up in a different subgenre. I grew up watching animal attack movies and like Twilight Zone thrillers and like, monster movies. I really grew up watching more monster movies than anything else. And slashers was just nothing that never tickled my fancy. But like, I love the history of them. They're fascinating, but like that's a subgenre that I don't prefer over other ones. But people consider those like the horror movies. Like if you were making a like Mount Rushmore of horror movie like horror movies, like I feel like a lot of those slashers faces would be on there, but like
absolutely,
you wouldn't necessarily see like the shark from Jaws on there, or like,
Right.
and then also you're on the line like, does Jurassic Park count as a horror movie? Like, things like that. It's an animal attack movie, really. It's like an elevated animal attack movie in some ways.
I love that you
also,
said
the hold that the animal attack movies have on you is wild. So, like, that's not my genre.
Check out this podcast for Idris Elba's Beast.
That movie looks so goofy.
The movie looks
I love
great.
him.
And then he punches a lion in the last frame of the trailer.
I can't.
Anyway, sorry.
Let's not. No, but I love, I mean, you kind of borderline on Parlor Talk, Brian, but I'm not going to call it out. It won't be that.
Okay.
We'll probably get one later on today.
Okay. So to let the audience know, I know we've talked about Parlor Talk. It comes from our Psycho episode where I want a parlor in my home because I love parlors now. And so I've created a sound cue for Parlor Talk, and I let Jamie and Nikisha know that if I ever like ramble on and go on and talk about it, like they can call me out for Parlor Talk, and then I'll put the sound in.
Which is, it's a great thing. So if you guys are listening and you feel like we missed a Parlor Talk moment, please DM us, send us a message in any capacity on all of our social medias.
But
let us.
I'm not going back and re-editing it.
A sensible Parlor Talk alert.
Right.
I guess this was a Parlor Talk.
Yeah.
Oh God. Now you have to put it in.
Come, sit, have a drink. It's Parlor Talk.
Your Mount Rushmore comment, it just reminded me of an interview with Jordan Peele that I watched, and he was asked if he could assemble like a Marvel-esque team of horror movie people that he would include Chucky, which I thought was very surprising because I never thought he would be the one to be a fan of that. Freddy Krueger, of course. There were a few other people, but he said they would all be riding the Tremors animal. Did you watch Tremors, Brian?
Yeah, I've seen Tremors. Hell yeah.
Yes, which I thought that was fascinating because I wouldn't consider that too much of a horror movie either. That was kind of a thriller.
I guess it's a horror comedy animal, like alien animal attack movie type thing. Yeah. I would consider that in the horror genre. I definitely would.
Okay. Yeah. But your Mount Rushmore just made me think of that. But they're all going to be riding on the little Tremors animal. So fantastic. We have to get started on this because there's so much. But before we get into this, we need a 2-minute plot summary of the movie. And I feel like we always designate this to the guest of our show.
Oh no!
100%.
Oh no!
What's the plot?
Oh no, your face! I wish this wasn't just an audio platform because people needed to see Aaron's face.
The amount of stress that entered my body right now, it's like I was watching the movie all over again. Oh goodness. Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, you don't like horror movies? We're gonna make you relive it right now.
Okay. Oh,
you got it.
Goodness.
We'll put 2 minutes on the clock. We usually spend an hour, not an hour, a minute and a half on just the opening scene. So you will do fine. Brian will count you in, set it up for you. It'll be great.
Yep. 2 minutes on the clock. Ready, set. What's Nope about? Go.
Okay, so we start the movie with a flashback to the set of the show called Gordy's Home, where we've just seen an entire massacre of the cast and the audience and everything, and we don't know what happened. Cut to many years later to where we were at the Haywood Hollywood Horse Ranch.
Yes.
And we're watching the son, Otis Jr., and the father, Otis Sr., training some horses. All of a sudden, and they're having deep conversations about training horses while they're doing it. All the while, all of a sudden, items start raining down, and we don't know what they are, but we all of a sudden find a key. We see a key, and we see
minute.
Oh, goodness. And we see a coin hit Otis Sr.'s head and kills him. Fast forward 6 months later, the ranch is in dire straits. We now have, and so we. Oh gosh. I got through like a third of the movie. Not even. All of a sudden, there's he's selling the horses and to try to like make ends meet. And we find out that the horses have been being sacrificed to what we thought was a spaceship, but is actually a beast that looks like a spaceship. And so in order to save the ranch, we're going to get the Oprah shot. And all of a sudden, but it starts killing people because it gets upset that it ate a fake horse, and then we trick it into eating a fake balloon, and then all the while they were having good family moments, and then the spaceship dies.
Yay! Great job.
Yes. I know what Nope is about now.
And that's the plot.
Oh, man.
Dire straits for me.
High stress.
No, it's wonderful.
You covered a good amount.
That was great.
Thank you for the credit that is not due to the guest.
No, awesome. So now that we kind of have an idea, there was an alien and it was killing people. Let's talk about our likes and gripes of this movie.
And now our likes and gripes.
And let's start off with Jamie. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like about Jordan Peele's Nope.
I really, really liked this movie. When the credits were rolling, I was like sitting in my seat. My heart was like in my throat. Cause it was just so, it was so suspenseful. But I also really liked that it like leaned more in the sci-fi genre. But still had really solid moments of horror. I loved when, he's in the stable and like the little aliens are coming out, but then you find out that it's actually from the what's his face, Jupes, whatever that is. It's like a carnival amusement park. I don't fully something like that.
It's like a ranch turned theme park or something.
Yeah,
right.
That was a great spooky scene. The part when Kiki is in her house with I should use their character names, but I forgot all of them. Emerald and Angel are in the house, and the spaceship is like right over them, and just noticing that like the rain wasn't falling on the window panes, and it was like silent, but then also you could hear the awful sounds that it was making and the sounds of like the people that it ate, and it was horrible, and I loved it. And again, like my heart was like in my brain, in my butt, everywhere that it wasn't supposed to be, and I was like dying. Keke Palmer, I mean, I've loved Keke Palmer. What was that one song that she came out with when she was like 12, or I forget what it was called. But I've loved her for so long, and I'm really excited that people are really into her now and like really want to see her be successful, and it makes me super happy. Oh man, now I'm just trying to think about
Bottoms Up
song. Yeah, oh yeah.
I am not smart. I Googled it as the producer. I did not know that.
Wait, she released a song called Bottoms Up at like 12?
Well, I don't know how old she was, but this was in 2007.
Was it before or after Aquila and the Bee?
When did that come out? I don't have time. I should have gotten timelines.
Aquila and the Bee came out in 2006, and Bottoms Up came out in 2007. So she had a big 2 years there.
Oh my God. But she's so funny. I mean, she's hysterical. She was great in this. I don't know, like, if anybody else has been like, just like following her, just like be silly and goofy everywhere, but she's hysterical. And she was definitely a standout in this. I was like I wasn't surprised. I was just very excited. Obviously, Daniel Kaluuya is like incredible, just so much like acting with his eyes and like facial expressions and, you know, super stoic. There were moments where maybe I was like, I don't know, is he being like too stoic? And I was like, it borderlining on gripe a little bit. Like I wanted more, a little bit more, but also like, you know, he's grieving his dad. So like, that's, I think, you know, that's part of why he's acting the way that he's acting. And I'm taking too long, but also I love Steven Yeun. I love him so much. He was also great. That's all I don't really have that many gripes.
Yeah, I was going to say no gripes. Jamie,
No.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Let's move on to Brian. Give us your likes and gripes.
Sure. I also loved this movie. I thought that it was spectacular. I thought that it was super derivative of other horror movies, but he made it his own, and that was wonderful. I thought that what it was trying to say and how it was trying to say it was fascinating. I thought the acting was great. My favorite moment in the movie is when Keke Palmer looks at OJ and is like, see, I told you he'd bring one without electricity. And they just get like so hyped in the moment. Like he finally like, that's the moment he like kind of like breaks out of his stoic shell and you just like see how into it he is at that point. And like her energy is infecting him and the group. Like I getting goosebumps. That moment really stood out to me because this was about the characters and the relationships, not necessarily about like the flying thing in the sky. I thought that everything that tied into the thematic elements of spectacle, of control, of all of that, and like of media's presence in our lives without like getting into the only time they really get into our face with it, obviously is the Gordo stuff, but even more than that, when Steven Yeun is talking about SNL and stuff like that, we'll get into that stuff. But I loved all of that. I thought it was super funny. The humor was there, as always, with Angel and all that stuff. It was actually kind of spooky when he punches the alien. I cracked. It was the funniest thing. My one true gripe about this movie is because when he comes off of the ranch and he's trying to find his horse and he can see at the beginning when his horse runs away and then it's the first time he sees kind of like the horse being pulled up or whatever it is, like when he sees the Jupiter's claim like lit up that night, and he's like, what the heck just happened? The first time he sees it, you can see that Jupiter's claim is like not that far away from his land. There's no way that the police wouldn't come to the next door neighbors to see if they saw anything and then see their house covered in blood with things from Jupiter's claim on the house. That's the one, like, I let a lot of things slide in this movie just cause, but that's the one thing I was like, if all those media were there, if all the like, there's no way that someone wouldn't have just shown up at that house to be like, hey, like, all these people are missing. Like, one, are you still here? Two, did you see anything? Like, oh, no, but like, the DNA on our house is everybody's. So like maybe like, like that was a little, but like, again, that's totally fine. They set it up that they're in an isolated like community area. Totally fine. Whatever. But I really enjoyed this movie. And Gordy's house or whatever it is. Nikisha, you'll appreciate this because you just watched it. Very BoJack vibes. Very,
yes.
Person around.
Horsing around. I didn't even put that together, and that's even more fantastic.
And the last thing I'll say with my likes, once again, just like the other two Jordan Peele movies, spoiler alerts here, obviously, it brings me great joy that all of our main characters survive.
Yeah.
And we can talk about if we think he survived or not, or if she was just seeing what she wanted to see, like people view media as. Like, was that her media happy ending, or is that real? Because he was behind the smoke. It felt like very like John Wayne Searchers, like Western ending. But like, regardless, like they all survived, the three of them.
The perception is that they survived.
Yeah, the perception, the upfront perception. So I dug this movie. I can't wait to dig into it. I dug it. I can't wait to dig into it more with you all.
Fantastic. I'm going to go because that'll make me not say so much so that Aaron can go as well. But I just want to start off by saying that Jordan Peele is ridiculously smart And I get mad because I am not that smart and I don't pick up on the things, and it makes me upset because I want to enjoy his movies to its full capacity. But it takes me having to listen to him talk about it, listen to other people talk about it in order to get and understand it. So all that to say, my first initial impression was confusion, and I didn't know how to feel about it. And we were all in our seats when the movie ended. Everyone in the theater, nobody got up. The credits are rolling, but you can tell that everyone was kind of waiting or thinking, is this it? That there has to be more. We need more answers. We need some more things to be happening here. So my initial likes for this movie have nothing to do with the meaning, the metaphors of this, because that was something that was secondary. Just watching it off of the top, this was the most beautifully crafted Jordan Peele movie as far as cinematography that I have seen. And I feel like his shots were so immersive. I was literally in the theater thinking to myself, when we talk about in The Conjuring and we talk about how to build tension and we talk about the view of the camera and the first person aspect of that, he did a lot of that more so in this movie than his other ones. And so it makes you feel like you are in the atmosphere, experiencing these things in real time with people, as opposed to seeing a ghost that's hiding somewhere, but the main character doesn't see it, but you know that something is coming. But with this, it was a lot of, we're seeing this from the eyes of the main character, so we don't know what's going on either. And that tension building was fantastic on so many levels. I also just love the fact that it wasn't an alien ship, that it was an actual alien. That was the twist of the year. I also loved now digging into it, and there's a great interview on the Today Show, and he is on the Jupiter's Clam set, which is now immortalized in Hollywood on the set, which is pretty fantastic. That's his first movie that the set is just going to be there and people can tour it and stuff. But he does a great interview, and he talks about what Brian said, the spectacle of it all, and how we're obsessed with a spectacle and give it so much power. And then we can also use the spectacle to distract us from the truth. And that's the main part of what the movie was about, and mostly about how we deal with Hollywood. And I did not get that initially from watching it, but in listening to him, then I was thinking to myself, oh, this is fucking genius. And then the Bible verse, I will pelt you with filth. The alien is pelting with the things, and then you think of like a monkey who like pelts you with their feces, I was like, oh my God, this is like, yes, the perfect verse for this. And it also says, I would treat you with contempt and make you a spectacle. And the whole thing is just about spectacle. So all that to say, now that I understand the meaning of it, it's fantastic. I love it, about capitalism and what we would do because of capitalism, what we would do because of the world that Hollywood has created for us. And yeah, but I can't get over how well this movie was shot. And I will end it with that. So, Aaron, likes and gripes.
Yeah, I felt the same way you did. I mean, we were there last night together, where we sat there afterward being like, okay, wait, what did we just watch? And I think I'll get to that. Like, I think that and gripe isn't really the right word for that, because it's like a delayed like, but it's very in terms of, in comparison to the other movies. And I know we're gonna get there in like a little bit, but like with the other two, I kind of, at the end of it, I like had a deep breath and knew exactly what I had watched and was able to start processing immediately after, versus this one where I was like, it took me a long time. And we went out to drinks after to talk about it more. And even after the drinks, I like still wasn't sure how to start processing the film. Again, but that's not a comment on the film. That's comment on like my understanding of the film and how to even begin. And I think that was a little, never mind, we'll get there in a second. But likes in terms of that, or likes despite that, there were some details of the film that I really, really loved, especially scene-wise. The scene where OJ's character is just sitting in the car, like waiting for the alien to like fly over and be done. It was such a beautiful scene. It didn't release the tension because the tension was very much still there, but was able to like layer on levity onto the existing tension, which was so great to experience while watching that scene. And it just kept going and just kept going, especially when he like looked up and just like locked the door and just like it was hysterical. Another thing that I really, really love that it's been haunting me is sort of the fact that this was an alien. And so it's extraterrestrial, which means its physics, I'm assuming its physics don't aren't the same as our physics. And so when it opened up and like became that almost like jellyfish butterfly thing, I was like, wait, I don't even understand how this is even possible. But then I was like, oh, but my rules don't apply here. So because I'm from this planet and that's from someplace else. So I'm not meant to know where the stomach is. I'm not meant to know how it's eating. I'm not meant to know any of that stuff, which I thought was a really cool thing, like a really cool like trait of the alien that like it became so beautiful. And I was like, I don't even understand how this happened. And yeah, and I think, and again, just my gripe / delayed like is the fact that I didn't know how to process it because while it's that aspect of like, if I need to like do more research or discuss it or find out more about it in order to like know what I thought about it, was it as successful as if I just like knew right off the bat? I'm not sure. And so like, and so that's, I'm still sort of processing the crap out of this movie. I mean, we only watched it yesterday, and so I'm still processing it. There are a couple rules, like details about it that I'm like, wait, if that was 6 months ago, and that like there's certain timeline issues that I have a little bit of gripe with, but those are minor compared to like the grandness of this movie.
Ask Brian. He'll probably give you a full through of a timeline. You know, he loves.
What do you want to know?
Okay, yeah, okay. So my biggest, because I was like, wait a second.
This is what I do.
Yes.
Okay, so we're safe to assume that space. Let's call, what do we want to call spaceship? Because it's not a spaceship. It's an
Jean Jacket.
alien. The Jean Jacket. Yeah. That was its name. When Jean Jacket first like dropped things like to kill Otis Sr., that was 6 months ago.
Yes.
And so it like ate people 6 months ago.
Yes.
What, like, and so why did no one go and try to find like these, or this community that he ate, that they ate? B, so we then after that, it's satiated by one horse every Friday for 6 months, and that's so it's cool with it.
One of my questions about this movie is why now? Like why is it starting now? Why did it leave those 6 months? Like that's never answered, and that's fine. But for all we know, they could have eaten those people towns away, and we didn't know that. Maybe if we watch it again, there's a news report on the TV that we're not seeing in the background or in the radio or something like that. But yeah, that's what actually in my notes. Okay, so if they ate some people and the thing dropped, Jean Jacket dropped all that stuff on them, killing them. Is that when was that when Jean Jacket saw the horses for the first time? Like, why was he hiding in the cloud? Did he come back? We know that he was angered when they fed him the fake horse. Like that's a pinpoint of a time. But I mean, the other questions I actually don't know the answers to, in terms of like, I don't think the movie actually presents those answers with us, because obviously Stephen Yeun's character was picking up on all of this And he was like buying the horses and building this, this stage, this mini arena, if you will, to like watch on the hill and stuff. So yeah, I don't totally know that timeline answer of like the monster Jean Jackets timeline. But yeah, that's my one question. Like, why now? Why is the, or does it not matter? You know what I mean? Like, it's just there, and that's what we're dealing with. So.
Yeah, because he was feeding like for the past 6 months one horse. He said every Friday he would feed him a horse.
Which I'm like, that's 26 horses. How did we have that many horses?
Yeah, I mean, that could be the case that he's keeping him afloat. He's not necessarily only buying horses from OJ. So sure. if Steven Yeun figured it out, was it June, right? What's his name?
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Yeah. Oh, right. Duh. So if also, I love that it's Jupiter's claim, like that, like this extraterrestrial is like claiming this land their own, and then really the inciting action for OJ and Emerald is them feeding. Well, the inciting action is him seeing it, really. In terms of that, but like, the point at which the plot changes is when they feed it the bad horse and it gets pissed. Is my understanding. But yeah, I mean, I agree that I'd have to watch it again to like smooth that out.
Yeah, but again, it's not something that's so it's not a plot hole in a sense that gets you out of the movie.
Yeah. But it's the same thing that you guys were talking about with Us. It's like a detail that like if you get lost in it, it can ruin the movie for you. So you just don't get lost in it because it's not worth it because the movie's better than that. But like, if you start losing the trees, if you start losing the forest through the trees, is that the phrase?
It doesn't matter. Don't get lost in the forest. Yeah.
Don't get lost. Oh gosh. Does anyone have any other likes and gripes before we move on to our next segment? Other comments?
Jamie?
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny because you're pointing, but like I don't know who you're pointing at because all the cameras are in
Great point.
The one thing that I forgot about and then remembered while everyone was talking is I love that this is a Black horror movie that doesn't feature Black exploitation at the heart. Like we're not looking at like Black people being like brutally murdered and tortured, but it's still like it's such a moving Black horror movie. Like like I think in comparison, there's some that I have not seen because I heard like not so great reviews. So like I will say I never saw Antebellum because I heard that it's like incredibly exploitative and it's just like what's the point of this? And so like I think that's another place where I really appreciate Jordan Peele's eye and like his particular like the storytelling that he is doing himself and also like producing. It's clear that like that is a big theme and I really appreciate that. So that was my other like that I wanted to share.
Yeah, it's great. Go ahead, Brian.
I have one other like if you don't mind.
Yes.
I really appreciated a couple things. I appreciated the idea that they were direct descendants of the first actor, the first man in movies, and just like that, they were forgotten from the business as well. And kind of that, and if you in their house is all these old movies that were directed by Black men starring Black people that are just like erased from the history, and just like Hollywood creates whatever narrative they want to, and that's deeply infused into this movie, and I appreciated that aspect of things. And when I was watching the movie, and this is probably the same for a lot of people, the first real indication of what theme they're going with, because if Nikisha remembers, I was convinced this movie was going to be about gentrification. Convinced. I was wrong. But the second that he said his name was OJ, I was like, oh, this is about media. This is about how people are seen, how minorities are seen, how Black people are seen through the lens of media, how media is important, how spectacle is important. The fact that Jupe, I'm sure we'll talk about this with Jamie, but Jupe cannot process his trauma and what happened to him unless he processes it through the lens of the media that portrayed it, the Mad Magazine cover. As he explains what happened to him as the SNL skit, and he's like making it fun. He has a literal secret room of his trauma. Like it's like wildly symbolic that behind his like big theme park is the underlying trauma. He's a children's star who's been
he's made into another theme park.
Exactly. He's been a child star who's been watched his whole life and doesn't know what to do outside of that. He's got a new reality show coming up, and now he is a child star who's been watched, creating a situation where they're watching some other spectacle, in there. And then the concept of like, do things exist if you can't see them anymore? Does all of this exist if they never get a picture of it? And then on the flip side, will people even believe them because you can Photoshop all that stuff? So the concept that like this thing that needs to be filmed won't be allowed to be filmed when its mouth and eye looks like the lens of a camera, that big thing at the end was just like all amazing. And then the fact that like the only way that it will get you is if you look at it, which is like another just like media spectacle type of thing. And it's just like, and then even I'm stealing this from Jamie. I don't know if she'll remember to say it because she's brilliant. She was like, and even like him sitting in the Best Buy or the wherever he was, I forget the name of it, something Fry.
The Fry's Electronics.
Fry's Electronics. He's like, he's a spectator. He's watching a reality show through their cameras. And then what's her name from Euphoria literally asks about like, are they okay? Like what happened to them? Like, it's like the same thing that you and I talk about when watching RuPaul's Drag Race or something like that. Like they just imprinted that on what's happening here. And that whole through line was just like, and his inability to like get excited. Like he has the flip phone. He's detached from all of that. But then like he gets like, and then the moment where he decides to like give his life, for his sister is the moment that like they didn't care about the picture. The cameraman already went up in his ambition, his Icarus complex or whatever it is, was like, got him. And then the family was like, this is a Fast and the Furious movie now. Like family is everything. We do this for family. And then she gets away. And then like, of course, like she's still able to get the shot. And then you have that last moment of like, she got the shot. She's on one side of her is all of the paparazzi and the cops and all that. Yeah. And we're going to give her exactly what she wants. But on the other side of that, she has her brother through the mist who like represents the opposite, that he just wanted to save the farm and his family when it really comes down to it. So it's like, she's in that moment where she's caught between those two things. Is her brother real? Is she just seeing him? Did he really give her life? And like, this is the movie that she wants and she wants to see? We don't know. And then the movie ends there. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to sit through the credits because I don't know what to do now.
Exactly. Those are all great chef's kiss points. Like that's, good things. And even you just talking about that, Brian, it's like gave me even more of an appreciation, especially with the
for real, because it's interesting. Because I guess one more gripe that I had, and as I listen and process and like, about the movie, because I remember leaving the movie and being like, I see all of the good things that this relationship had. I couldn't invest because, to me, from the surface, having just watched it 2 minutes ago, the entire movie was driven by this motivation of getting a picture. Like, it wasn't about like saving people's lives. It wasn't about saving people's lives. It wasn't about like killing the monster.
You can't see this on the podcast, but the second that Aaron said getting a picture, his video cut out.
Yeah. Like,
yes.
But it was an interesting, my expectation was that something, the driving motivation would be something more, I don't know, grand. But the fact that it was still just to get the Oprah shot really like stopped me from being as invested. Now processing it and now hearing like like Brian, your take on it and everybody else's take on it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's interesting. But at the time of watching, I was like, but they still want to just succumb to the media part of this where they want to get famous. And it was, and I didn't know how to process that.
Because that was the point, and that's why my brain exploded. Because we had that conversation, and then I watched what Jordan Peele was talking about, and then it makes absolute sense. Because they were so obsessed with the spectacle that it didn't matter about the lives, and that's what the spectacle does to you. That's how people, for the most part, respond to the spectacle. They don't care about the individual person, or they don't care about other people. They care about getting their Oprah shot or getting their 15 minutes of fame or whatever. Yes, Brian.
Also, if I can add, loved Disfigured Monkey Face.
Disfigured Monkey? Oh, Brian.
His Jupe's childhood crush.
That was so sad, especially having seen that image in the trailer and then having context in that moment was wildly sad. Oh, also something I want to talk about when it comes to Gordy's home is in the scene where we finally watch Gordy kind of like lose it with the balloons. If you notice, they open the thing, the first balloon pops in the lights, and Gordy loses his mind. And then another balloon pops and he stops and he hits the mother or whoever's lying on the floor to see if they're okay. And then a balloon pops again. And then that's when he loses it again on the father or whatever it was. And then it pops again and he's fine. And that's when he wants to give the pound to a young Jupe. And then that's when, whoever takes him out. So you have this this control, this trigger, if you will, for him. And to me, that is also very similar to the horse when it sees its reflection. These are we all are animals. These animals are animals. We are animals, and we all have our triggers. You cannot fully train anything to be one thing. Things are always changing. Animals are animals. This thing in the sky, it can't be tamed. Just the horses are running away. As much as the dad trained them well and he trained them well, even the whole jean jacket story they talk about, things are just going to be those things. And so I think that also is worked into all of this. OJ's always going to want to do the work. She's always going to want to kind of take shortcuts or at least do the fun version of things. Angel's always going to want to butt his head into things. Jupe is always going to want to somehow have people look at him and feed his ego and whatnot. These people were either brought down or raised up by the things that cannot be changed about these people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we're getting into this, let's get into our segment, Brains. So that we can get into all of the trauma and control and human behavior aspects of things. So with that, Brian was talking about just how people are dealing with their trauma. And so with Daniel's character, OJ, we have the trauma of him dealing with seeing his father die and not understanding what happened, and he's kind of replaying it in his mind and he doesn't know, and he's not believing what other people are saying, because I believe they said that it was something that just fell from an airplane or some kind of aircraft, and that's what the raining of the objects was, and it was just a freak accident, and he doesn't believe that. And then you have everything that happens with Jupe's character and him literally seeing all of his co-stars die before his eyes, but then he's the lone survivor, and we don't know how he's dealing with the survival guilt of it all. But my question is, with those two things, they're trying to control their situations. So Daniel always has to do the work, OJ, he always has to do the work, and Jupe is trying to control his image with everyone and wanting everyone to see him. So how does control play a part in dealing with trauma, Jamie? And can you just talk about how these characters are trying to take control of their own trauma?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to like think about, in the process of unpacking and making sense of like a traumatic or like several traumas, traumatic experience or experiences. Like, how do people work to feel empowered? Because a lot of times, like, they can feel disempowered after having such an experience. So, like, what does it say about Jupe for wanting to like profit off of an experience that was so traumatizing to him that he can't even talk about it through his own perspective? Like, he can only talk about it where he's like removed from it, but is also trying, like, in that sense, trying to take control by being like, this thing happened to me, but like, I'm going to get something from this. Like, I'm like, if nothing about this situation served me. So like, how do I take back the power and like have it serve me now? If I'm living with this, like, there's even that part where he's like staring off into space as he's like prepping for that new show. And he's with his wife and it's just like them two. And she's like, how are you feeling? And like kind of checks in with him. But like, how often is he regularly experiencing flashbacks to what happened to him and like continue to be impacted by this trauma? So like he's converted, he's used like the leverage of him being a child actor and like having access to these things, and is using that as a way to take back power over this thing. But like, he's clearly still affected by it. And then you have OJ, who, very much seems like he doesn't want to participate in like he's doing what he has to do because he doesn't really have a choice in terms of like the farm and trying to keep it going, but also kind of is still looking to like sell it, and therefore just like kind of remove himself further from all of it. And like it's more of like this distancing himself, I feel like, and that's his way of getting control. Like, he seems to still be very invested in the ranch and the horses, even though those are the very things that like led to like being there in that moment, led to his father being killed. And so like, what connection does he, like, what pressure does he feel to continue? But also like the connection itself is re-traumatizing potentially. And so like, what can he do to distance himself as much as possible from everything, from people, from technology, from like literally, I mean, he still has a flip phone. So like, how does he's like disconnected from everything. And I mean, he did seem, again, pretty stoic in the beginning when we see him with his father, but it just seems like he's also now really reliant on his sister to kind of facilitate a lot of things, and like just isn't ready, or just like completely is disinterested in wanting to, take on that role. And so that's kind of what I see is like the ways that they're coping and managing and like trying to take back power is like either just like fully disconnecting from it or fully embracing it, but using it as a way to like still get something out of it.
Yeah, I know there's no rhyme or reason to the way that we deal with trauma, but have you found that control is kind of seen a lot with people who deal with this kind of trauma, of watching something that happens that they didn't have control over, so now they're trying to control everything else about their lives? Is that kind of something that's happens a lot?
I would say like control, maybe in like a really general, vague way. So like, recently when we were talking about like trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, and like what that looks like, one of the characteristics of PTSD is avoidance, like avoiding, the place that the trauma happened, avoiding people that might remind you of the trauma. Like there's that distancing and that way of maintaining like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want it to like ever cross my mind. I'm going to do whatever I can to like detach myself from that experience because it brings me great distress and pain. And like, you know, we see that with OJ and like, you know, removing himself to whatever abilities that he can. But also like, I mean, there's still like the hypersensitivity, I would say. Like, I think that's more of Jupe and like his experience with the flashbacks and stuff. But like, yeah, I think that there's like control is like a theme and like how that kind of manifests for people and like how do they ultimately feel like they are taking back control, whether it is, you know, is how Jupe is doing it. Like, do we like this? Do we not like this? Like, do we encourage and support him doing this if that's how he feels empowered and like that's him taking back control after this like loss of control, seeing this like horrible experience happen, and like experiencing it himself. So that's an interesting, you know, question too, is like, there's something that feels really icky about it, but if it's serving him and like he is like, this is helping him in a way, then who are we to say that like he shouldn't, you know, use his trauma as a way to like still gain something.
That's what I was going to ask, if you felt that was a healthy way to cope with that, or if it would have been better if he had a different approach, but you just answered that. So
yeah, I think it makes me feel icky, but
yeah,
but
it's not harming anybody else
until you know the
until
alien
the whole thing happens. But
them all.
If the alien wasn't there and he was just, you know, using his media to make money, like, okay.
Sure. Yeah. That's, yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I think it's like, you know, and then the role of the therapist in that is like, I don't think it's our job to tell people like, you can't do this or you shouldn't do this. I think it's just evaluating like, is this helping you or is it hurting you? Does this serve you? And like, just kind of talking it through. Because I don't know.
It didn't seem like there was a lot of process because he was having those flashbacks over and over and over again for however many years since that had happened. He was more capitalizing on the experience rather than processing and healing from it. I guess.
Yeah.
One question that I have, because I do think we start the movie after the inciting event, after Otis Sr. dies. We see like these three very traumatized people: Otis, OJ, Emerald, and then also Jupe. By the end of the movie, obviously Jupe is dead, so he didn't get to heal out of his trauma. But I feel like is it safe to say that by the end of the movie, the other two have healed out of their trauma, or and if so, what made that happen? Was it the killing of the monster? Was it being drawn closer together? What might have begun the healing process, if that even makes sense? Like, what would that have been? Or is there even a way to like find that out or analyze what that would have been?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if honestly, like, there's so many niches for therapy. I'm sure that there could be like you know, you survived a traumatic UFO experience. You know, like, who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if, well, because I think this goes back to like the spectacle. Like, does them having gotten the Oprah shot like supersede the impact on their psyche and mental health and like you know, does whatever is going to come from that help manage like the trauma that they experienced along the way? I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I would say no, but maybe it truly, like, maybe it's just like such a life-changing thing that, comes after this, that they can afford the best therapist and like that will help them and like it's fine. But like, yeah, they just like went through, there was so much that was compartmentalized in order to succeed with this, including risking their own lives. So like, it's, yeah, like, how do you justify these things as important? But like, as a society, if we've normalized that these are the things that matter, then I think it makes sense that they would pursue that regardless of the trauma that is caused. Which is like, I think the point that it's trying to make.
For sure. I have a semi-random question, but not random, that I just thought about when you spoke about they just have money and they can, if they get the money, they can get a therapist and blah, blah, blah. Well,
I hope they do.
Kiki, well, yes. Well, Kiki Palmer Emerald, she mentions that she had a therapist, which we're going to place in the bad therapist category because she was sleeping with her therapist.
Well, was that
or
actually
a therapist?
That's what I think it was.
Okay. So my question is, so we're establishing that it wasn't that she was in therapy and she slept with her therapist. She was sleeping with a therapist. But somehow she got some kind of therapy,
nuggets of knowledge
in conversation, nuggets of knowledge. Yes. So is it difficult as someone who is a therapist to be in a relationship with someone and separate, giving them those, as Aaron said, nuggets of wisdom along the way? Do you feel like you have a handle on separating your work, and even with friends, so any kind of relationship, romantic, platonic, do you feel, and just personal question, that it's easy for you to draw that line as far as not giving any kind of nuggets, or if somebody says, yeah, I can ask your opinion about this, to not, go into a therapy session with that person?
Yeah. Brian, am I doing a good job?
Excellent.
I mean, I do, like, I very much view it. The doggos also have lots of opinions. I do feel like, there are definitely like skills and things that you learn when you are like learning how to be a therapist, or at least like, for me, like learning how to do social work and do like clinical work. But also it's not like, I'm not constantly thinking as I'm like interacting with people, like, oh, I wonder what kind of diagnosis they have, or like what kinds of things stress them out, or anything like that. I feel like it very much like stays in that place until I'm like actually working and then like drawing on those skills. But that being said, like, I've had conversations with people and it's like, oh, have you thought about it this way? Or like, that sounds really like analytical, like rational, like what do you feel about this? Like, what are you actually like feeling? Which I don't think is necessarily doing therapy on anyone or like putting therapeutic nuggets out in the world, but it's more of just like, it's like embedded in some ways in the way that I communicate. And so I think just generally in trying to like elicit information from people, especially when it comes to like feelings, because I'm a very sensitive, person, as we've talked about many times. Like, Nikisha, my fellow Cancer, we are very sensitive creatures. And yeah, like I'm just like a very emotional person. I just like talking about feelings. So yeah, like those things will come out, but like I wouldn't necessarily say that that's like therapy. I think it's just like connected to communication skills that I've that like are helpful in therapy, but also I think helpful generally in like communicating with people and like conversations. But yeah, I wouldn't be like, oh, that sounds like your mother is a narcissist. Have you thought about reading into some of these resources and blah blah blah? Like, yeah, I haven't done that.
Okay. It's just a random question that, because you think about it, like you said, it's so much embedded in you that I just wanted to know if it would come out in certain situations. Also, speaking of sensitive people, I just bought the Highly Sensitive Person book. I don't know if you've heard of that, Jamie?
I bought it and I haven't read it. I will say, as like total aside, like I've just leaned into like watching my content over the last 2 years for no
fair.
particular reasons. It's like so hard for me to like sit and read anything. So that's like, it also helps to, you know, have all of this horror content to watch and keep up with. And that's just like how I've been spending my downtime instead of reading. So but I keep buying books. So that's a problem. But I do have that book and I've heard that it's really good and like very helpful. So I'm excited for you to probably read it before me and tell me how it is.
Absolutely. I'll probably say at our next podcast, it will be all the things, highly sensitive person. But another thing on the brains question list that I have, we talk a lot about fight, flight, freeze, fawn things. And in this movie, as I was watching it, it seemed, I mean, because of the context of the movie, but it seemed like the most that reaction that people had was to freeze. And again, it's because of the context of this monster and how it operates. But just in your own opinion, why do you think that was the go-to move for most of them? Do you feel like it has anything to do with the trauma that they experienced previously? How do you feel about it?
I mean, with like, so we've talked about fight or flight and freeze and fawn and like all of those responses to some kind of like, you know, scary, fearful thing that's happening, and like the connection to like, you know, when adrenaline is pumping through our veins and like those being the moments that this is happening. So we don't always have control over what that response looks like. I think something that comes up for me is like, in those moments are like, biologically, are we assessing a threat and then responding accordingly? So like if a lot of them are freezing, perhaps it is because of this like, you know, biological predisposition to like see, okay, this thing is like gigantic and I don't even know what it is. And like, is it trying to, you know, eat me, or like what, like in not knowing what it is and then slowly realizing like the danger increasing, I think that kind of lends itself to freezing more, because it, you know, that like immediate hit of adrenaline isn't necessarily telling them that they could like fight it, nor is it telling them that they can probably get away, because they've also seen it move. So like they have some information that then like their bodies are reacting in a way that's like, no, like you can't do any of these other things. So like you better just kind of hold up and like see how things unfold.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and with the idea of, you know, training the animals and certain things and lights and movements that could make it go crazy, that would also make sense to why the predisposition would be to just freeze and wait and assess and then go and see. My last question is for the entire group, whoever wants to comment, including Teddy. With the Hollywood director and his whole, you know, cryptic, got to get the perfect shot or stop chasing the impossible and all those kinds of things. Do you think that in the world of spectacles and that Hollywood is kind of more to quote unquote blame for people feeling like they have to give their lives for the impossible shot or for the, you know, impossible movie, or, you know, people who do method acting and all those kinds of things? Or do you think it might just be more of an individual kind of case by case, whatever they're dealing with mental trauma wise? Because with the director, you know, he is successful. People know who he is. He's done things. But it just seems so, I don't know. It seemed a little confusing him to just kind of throw away all those things. But then again, he was kind of very cryptic about, you know, I want to get this shot, but, you know, don't chase the impossible. And then literally kind of his Hollywood fame consuming him and the alien like consuming him. I don't know how you feel
I,
about it. This is more just like talking points.
I feel like it's a thing where I think that's a statement that the movie might be making about Hollywood, but I think there's something to be said about how, just like all media just like exacerbates what already exists in like human nature, where we're drawn to the like we're drawn to like to the spectacle, and that existed in stories, like the stories of monster, like from passed down from generation to generation. That was like the stories of dragons, the stories of giants, the stories of whatever. Those, whether true or not, have an element of spectacle. Just the fact that we couldn't see it, we were using our imagination of this like tall tale was still a thing. And so I think that that's an illustration on media in general, rather than just like on for like as a like admonition of Hollywood. I think that's just an extension of how we are as humans. Is that too far? I don't even know that.
No, that makes sense. I mean, in the sense of it's not just, you know, when we talk about musical theater world, or we talk about Hollywood and acting and how that can kind of, you know, chew you up and spit you out in ways, or create kind of the monster within you. But to your point, Aaron, you're just saying that it's just bringing out what's already there, the human nature of it aspect, and that's what the point of the movie is. So it's not just necessarily this entity that is the problem. I mean, it contributes to it, and it awards the chaos and you know, everything, and
it definitely establishes a value system based on like what you can see, what you can present, the most sensational. It's where tabloids exist. It's where it's all of these things, but they all have roots in a time before media existed. So it's not the media's fault per se.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions in our brain section? That's all that I have for this.
No. I also think, to answer your question, I also think it has to do with the American mindset about work. That's something that I could also go into there. You know, we don't get like months off or sabbaticals the same way that Europeans do. You know, it's a very much like, you know, what's your side hustle? What do you do for your 9 to 5? Like, you know, that's a huge part of it. And like, well, I gotta be number one, or I gotta get the shot, or I gotta do this. You know, there's that aspect of things, but also, as Aaron said, it's also human. Like, there are stories about Icarus before, you know, that was the media then, and like, you know, it's just human nature as well. But I do think that Hollywood in general absolutely influences our expectations. Like, you'd be crazy to think that all these rom-coms don't fuck with your head when you're like dating. You know what I mean? When like you know what I mean? Like, absolutely. Like you think that your life or Friends or How I Met Your Mother or all that stuff, 100%, like what a bar experience is supposed to be like when you're watching Cheers, or like, you know, these are sitcoms, these are these things, but like they all influence how we set our own expectations. And I think that is what Hollywood does too. Like, whether or not, like, you know, and I think it's up to the individual how much they internalize it and how much they set those points and those checkpoints for themselves. But it's real.
Right.
But so I think it's a combination of everything. But I think deep down it's human nature. But also, what is human nature? Human nature is something we've learned about through books, media, plays, like history books. Like, you know, like what is all of that? Like, this is something that comes up a lot, and I think about this all the time. And this is like totally off base, but like the Tulsa Massacre. The fact that I never heard about the Tulsa Massacre until I saw it in Watchmen is nuts.
Wow.
How did I not learn about that in school? It's because people write these history books and create curriculums and cut certain things out or whatnot. You know what I mean? And like, and that's also a part of how we are presented information. It's not just the media, it's the school systems, it's the education system. It's like, what pieces am I learning growing up that are going to affect how I think about things, how I empathize with things, how I see things? Like, like that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
because it wasn't tied into a world war, like Armenian genocide or the Holocaust or stuff like that. And it's just like, well, this is kind of like shitty American history. So like, let's just like stick with like Abraham Lincoln, like freed the slave. Like, like
Yeah.
you don't learn about that other crappy stuff. You just like, I had to learn about it from Watchmen and what was the other one? Ted, do you remember? Lovecraft
Oh,
Country.
yes,
Lovecraft
Lovecraft.
Country.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and then you deep dive and you're like, oh, who's the monster here? Like, is it the school system? Is it me for not like I'm just completely ignorant to it, had no idea. And that's what I think about when I think about like how media is perceived to us, because I think about it education wise, capitalism influences a lot of that. And I feel like a lot of our generation, like especially myself, is like disenchanted by capitalism, especially in the past couple of years and stuff like that. And like that has a lot to do with this. And so that's kind of the rabbit hole that I go down when I think about the themes that this movie is also presenting, outside of the fact that like that, again, that Black history of movies is eradicated. Like when you think of Black history movies, like in general, if someone were to ask me like, tell me about the history of Black cinema, I'd probably start with Sidney Poitier. Maybe I'd start with Hattie McDaniels, but those are parts in white movies. Those are not like, that's not like, sorry, now I'm going on a tangent, but like that's kind of, I'm doing a poor job of tying this all together. The opposite of what Jordan Peele does. But yeah, so I'm going to stop there. I'm just putting the food for thought out there.
And that's been Parlor Talk with Brian.
Come, sit, have a drink. It's Parlor Talk.
Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
I mean, let's just take it down another rabbit hole. Like the Bible is a form of media. Like,
Absolutely.
It's that it was curated by a group of men who like had a choice of many, many, many books and became 66 books that we just decided were in the book and now take as fact, and now it like runs the world. And it's and that's media, and that we looked at, and so the way we define human history and the way, and what you were saying is like it's this like cycle that media produces how we understand human nature, but human nature is it. Yeah, I don't even know where the cycle is.
But like
it's learned, it's taught. It's not anything that's innate. It's not what it is. It's the opposite of something that's natural. It's not natural. It's been taught to us.
And history books from history books that feature this time that we're living through now, depending on where they're written or what they're doing, are going to be wildly different. Those chapters are going to be like insanely different. And
if
like
they make it in the book.
If they make it in the book, one, and two, who's teaching the book? Who's filtering that information that you can get raw? You know what I mean? Like who's writing it, then who's teaching it? Because also your opinion, here's another example. Whether it's a movie or a book or whatever, your opinion is also formed and around the people that you view that lens through. So if I watch a movie as a kid and I think I like it, but my parents hate it, I'm probably going to have more of a relationship with like how they felt about it, because like I see them as like older, more mature, or however I view them as a kid. I'm going to have that. Like, here's an example. My parents showed me Jaws as a young kid. They loved that movie. I loved that movie. If I watched Jaws and they hated it, I would not have the same relationship with that movie. I might discover that I liked it years later, but really, and the same thing goes with like all of that stuff. Who teaches it to you? Who believes it? You have to be confident in your own ability to like decision making, which is like super hard for you to have like a different opinion on it. So I think that all feeds into this as well. It's fascinating.
Yeah. There was a meme that I just saw recently that basically encompasses what we're saying as far as how things are presented to us in media. And it was talking about just American history in general. And it said, this is how people are presenting American history, and it was a picture of Captain America, and then it said this is how history actually went, and it was Homelander from The Boys.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's fantastic because that's what it is.
Wait, was it Captain America or was it Superman? It was I think it was Superman.
Oh, it was Superman. Thank you. It was Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So Superman and Homelander, it's completely different things of what actually happened and what we're trying to present happened.
Yeah, The Boys is so good.
Which is interesting. The Boys is fantastic. If you guys don't watch it, watch it. Even if you're not a superhero person, but if you love horror, watch it for the gore. First episode, season 1, all the gore you will ever need in your life. Fantastic.
Yeah,
first episode, season 3.
Or season 3. But if you're just getting into it, like you will get the gore at the top, season 1, episode 1, 10 minutes in, you're there. But aside from that, I think we have to do all of our ratings and Rotten Tomatoes and such. Brian, do you want to start us off?
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
Rotten Tomatoes. What do we all think the Rotten Tomatoes score of this is?
We just opened, so I'm gonna say 86.
You took my number.
Sorry.
I'm gonna say 87.
Whoa. Jamie?
I'll just go up one. Let's just keep this trend going.
So 88.
Mm-hmm.
This is an 82 on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. The audience score is 71. And admirable for its originality and ambition, even when its reach exceeds its grasp, Nope adds Spurgbeelian spectacle to Jordan Peele's growing arsenal.
Spurgbeelian.
Yeah.
That's a great word.
Can
you tell us what the other scores were? I'm sorry, putting you on the spot just to compare.
Get Out. What did we say Get Out was? Get Out was like a 98 or something like that. And high. Then Us was like a 93. I have to look it up, but that's what I'm...
Spurgbeelian? Is that
Spielbergian?
Spielbergian. I literally was like, wait.
Sorry.
Did I say it wrong?
I think I said it wrong.
I don't remember.
Anyway, I think that's what it is. I can double check for you all. But while I'm checking that, do you want to go into the 4 S's?
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
Yes, the 4 S's, our Talking Horror ranking system. And it is based 1 through 10. For each of the 4 S's, we have skulls. How well does it deal with human behavior and mental health? Scares. How scary was it? And shakes. Will you be able to shake this off, or will this movie stick with you for a long time? And the last S, suggestions. Well, what would go in a Walmart 2-pack with this movie? If people even remember what Walmart 2-packs are. I just thought about the fact that we're not even buying DVDs anymore. Okay. I'm old. So, Aaron, let's start off with you and just give us your skulls, scares, and shakes, and then hold off on your suggestions. But give us your rankings for those 3.
Skulls. I think I'm gonna give it a 6, just because that's an arbitrary number. I don't really know why, but that's what my heart is leaning toward. But especially with the conversation about trauma you guys just had, I was like, oh, yeah. Scares. The big jump scare in this movie that really got me was when the fake horse crashed through the windshield. I yelled so loud in that like Alamo Drafthouse Theater, and that it shocked me. So for that scream alone, I'll give it like a good 7.
Okay. Yes.
Shakes, I'll give I mean, it's a Jordan Peele movie. It has stuck with me since, just in like haunting my memories. So I'll give it like a good 8, 9.
Nice. Jamie, what about you?
For Skulls, I am going to give it a 7 because I feel like it's a lot of what they do is believable. I'm pretty like there wasn't really any moment where I was like, oh, there were a few moments where I was like, if you know at this point that looking at it is bad, why are you looking up at the end of the movie? That really bothered me. So that's why I'm, deducting those 3 points. For scares, I'm going to give it an 8.5. Like I said, I was like very anxious by the end of this movie. It really had some good scary moments, not only jump scares, but just like tension building moments. We know how much I love those. And for shakes, I'm going to give it a 7. I've been thinking about this movie a lot. I'm still processing it. It's going to be churning around in my brain for a bit, I believe.
Fantastical. Brian, what about you?
I'm going to give this a 7 for Skulls. I'm going to give this a 6 for Scares. And I'm going to give this an 8 for Shakes. I'm still processing, thinking about it. I think I like this better than Us. I think that like it's giving me I think I like it better than Us. I just think about it more. I'm more excited to see this a second time than I was to see Us a second time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going with. What about you, Nikisha?
Skulls, I would give this an 8, solely based off of our conversation today about trauma and behavior things. If Jamie says it's good, then I say it's good.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Scares, definitely for tension building, I would give it a 6 because of, like I said, his use of sound and all the things to create tension that I talked about earlier. And Shakes, I would also give it an 8 because I've been thinking about it, watching all the things about it. And the more that I watch and listen to other people talk about it, the goods and the bads, the more I enjoy it. So I'll start off with the suggestions and a Spielbergian movie that I will suggest, Poltergeist, solely for the purpose of Brandon Perea, his character, Angel, I think is his name.
Yeah, Angel.
When there's a moment where he says, "It's here," and then the poltergeists are like, "They're here."
Oh my God.
Solely for that purpose, I'm going to offer up the poltergeist. Aaron, do you have a suggestion?
I feel like I need to forego this part because I don't know any other.
Oh, well, that's
things.
fair.
My literal other one would be like what you said right at the beginning of this episode was like Jurassic Park. Is it even a horror movie? Who knows? But it's an animal scare movie, and there's a lot of tension in it. So
we'll take it.
Sure. People will look at it in Walmart and be like, "Why are those two together?" But here we are.
The animals. That's all. Jamie.
Okie dokie. So, this isn't a horror suggestion, but like these are the vibes that I feel like are being channeled by this movie. So one of my suggestions is Independence Day.
Yeah, great.
Just like big blockbuster aliens, like we're going all in. And yeah, I feel like that's appropriate. And then another one that like is, a spooky movie, but more, also aliens, is Signs.
Yeah. I've never watched that.
Early M. Night.
We're gonna
Shyamalama.
Good stuff.
We're gonna have to do an M. Night Shyamalan series because Nikisha's seen none of these things.
No, I have not.
I think
you should see like if there's a new one, like whenever his like next big one comes out.
There is a new one coming out.
On Disney.
There is.
He has that show on Apple TV Plus.
Oh, Servant.
Oh yeah, we never finished it.
No, we should. That's one we should put back on the radar.
It's wild.
Yes, it is. I am going to. Jamie, was that everything for you?
Yes.
Cool. I am going to. Okay, I'm just going with Jaws because this movie is just a different version of Jaws. Literally, like, spoiler alert for Jaws and this movie, like, they both like basically die from compressed air exploding, and they have to bring in the expert at things, which is like the photographer or Quint on the boat. You don't see the monster till the end. There's trauma and with characters, and the trauma influences how they effectively hunt this thing. It's basically Jaws from the sky in some ways. So Jaws and Close Encounters if you just want like real good Spielberg alien.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched that either.
It's a great movie.
Fantastical. Well, I think that wraps up our episode of Nope. You can follow us on all social medias, the Instagram, the Twitter, the TikTok, at Talk Horror Pod, P-O-D. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
You can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. What podcatcher do you use? Is it Apple? Is it Stitcher? Is it, I don't know, Spotify? Go on those places and find Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha. Download it into your ears and listen to it there. And don't forget to rate and review us 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Oh, also, Nikisha and Jamie, February 3rd, 2023, Knock at the Cabin, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, is described as a home invasion horror film that takes place during the apocalypse, starring Dave Bautista and Rupert Grint, as well as Jonathan Groff is in it, Ben Aldrich, Nikki Amuka Bird, Abby Quinn. That's a good cast. Let's do that one.
Ron Weasley's in it. Is Ron Weasley the new
Ron Weasley? We can,
because Ron Weasley's in
Servant
too, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, maybe at the end of this year, after Halloween and stuff, maybe we do like we did the Scream ones leading up to Scream. Maybe we do we just like pick the best of M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay,
It'll be the early stuff then.
Yeah, it would only be his first 3 movies. No, no, we'd have to do The Visit for the one scene that Jamie and I can't watch again, but we will, and we'll do some other ones. We can do old. We can figure it out.
I heard you don't like mess.
Excited for all of these things. Brian, I think that we should end with the Purple People Eater song.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I can end with the Purple People Eater song totally.
Yeah, let's do that.
I used to listen to that. Did anyone else have like Halloween hits and it had like Purple People Eater on it and like
Monster
Bad
Mash.
Moon Rising and Monster Mash? Yeah, did anyone else have that like CD or cassette tape?
Nope.
No, but I can imagine.
I'm sure it's on a playlist on Spotify right now.
I'm sure.
Exactly.
Oh, and thanks for joining us, Aaron. We really appreciate your perspective on Nope.
Yes.
This was
Thanks
so
much for having
fun.
me.
You'll be back.
Yes.
It'll be a
We'll
fun
see.
You will, at the very least, you'll come back for the M. Night Shyamalan movies you've already seen.
Okay, perfect. Everything that I've already seen.
Yeah. Wait, do you know, Nikisha, I'm boggled by this. Do you know the twists to the M. Night Shyamalan movies?
No.
None of them?
I know nothing.
That's good.
You haven't even
Oh my
seen
God.
the original, like Sixth Sense? God.
No. I mean, I know. I know the twist to Sixth Sense.
Oh,
But that's the only
okay.
one that I know.
All right.
But I still have not watched that movie all the way through.
That's wild. I can't wait for this. Oh, yeah.
I'm excited. It's going to be a good time, guys. Make sure you listen.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.